whatever. All right, let's go live everywhere. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to episode 124, I guess, of the Ask Weldon show live in Korea. So I'm here in the Korean boot camp, and I'm doing a test live stream on Twitch, as well as answering questions on Anchor. And I know that the video is lagging. It's my graphics card. It's just really bad. Hopefully the sound quality is coming through okay on my stream. Those of you listening on Anchor and on the podcast, obviously, hopefully you just hear nice, clean video. But anyway, the content of this video is mostly going to be about the sound anyway. So if you want, you can open up another tab, cover up my video, not look at it because it's going to be lagging. And if the sound comes through clean, then we're in the good there. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the first question. Ask Weldon124 live at Korean boot camp. Morning, everybody. On the stream, that is. Now let me make sure that I have, okay, my video preview is shrunk. Open up chat. Hopefully the link is working. All right, so I have a team meeting in like 40 minutes, and I'm only going to do probably a 20-minute stream here just to kind of test out my setup here and try to figure out a little bit more of why my computer and my video is lagging all the time, and then I gotta go. So let's just jump in with the first question. This one looks like it's from Sam An.
Hey Weldon, this is Sam, aka Just Casual here from Wisconsin, USA. I just wanted to ask you, from a managerial point in a team, a manager of a League of Legends team, I was curious, if you're coming into a new environment with players that have been playing for a little bit, and you notice kind of that specific players are kind of rude to either another specific player or to the group in general, but you know, it's kind of that friendliness and everyone laughs it off, so you're not really sure if it's like okay or not. How do you deal with that situation? Is it always bad to have that kind of situation where someone is always calling someone out for their faults and picking on someone or being rude, but everyone's kind of laughing it off, so it may be okay with the environment? I'm not exactly sure. What do you think about that? Is that just unhealthy and should be nipped at the bud, or how do you deal with that as a manager of a team?
Ooh, this is a tough question. All right. Add the call in. Thank you, Sam, for this question. It's really tough. This is a tough question. So, and it's a really good one, by the way, also, because it hits on a lot of really important points of coaching and kind of raising up youth, I guess, using the sporting environment. So this is really common and really natural to find in any team that you go in. And of course, jovialness and connectedness between teammates is something that can look abrasive to the outside. However, it's really important to read the air and try to figure out what exactly is going on. So my kind of default is to not assume that whoever is the kind of like subject of this behavior is okay with it. My default behavior is not to try to assume that just because they're laughing along and don't look like they're bothered that they're okay with it. So I look for confirmation first in a private conversation, or I simply read the air and can kind of tell that, you know, this is just something that is part of the power dynamic of the team. And I think that power dynamics in teams, while they exist, need to be as level as possible for progress to be made. That is, in order for somebody who might know the correct answer to criticize somebody who might need criticism, the power dynamic interferes with that. So while it's good in terms of getting people decisive on plays and to have leadership, it's not really necessary. It's like overkill for the, I guess I would say, the social relationships in the team. That's much better if it's more flat. So I try. Gosh, it's so hard to talk about how it is you deal with this behavior in context because it's so specific to the moment. But essentially, a lot of what you do as a coach is try to just make it so that this doesn't happen in the first place, or you talk to the offending player individually and you explain to them like why it is that this kind of behavior is like psychologically not useful in any way, and what other proactive behavior could be used in its place that is also jovial and builds connectedness. Building up teammates and teammate bonds in other ways, doing player dates where they talk about deeper topics than things that they're joking about. Yeah, there's a lot of different like activities that you can do, but the long and the short of it is, under no circumstances should any manager ever assume that like this is okay based on observing the environment, because you just need to talk to the people. And a lot of times they're going to claim that it's totally fine because they really want to feel like they're a part of the group and they're really just being bullied. So yeah, tough situation. And it's not like anybody's really doing anything wrong. So there's not a confrontation to be had. It's more like you need to build an environment where those behaviors are not the default in a way. But yeah, thanks for the question and good luck with the team. Good morning. I'm streaming, and yes, I think that we'll have time. Just wanted to let you know so you didn't blurb any like. Yeah, I don't know if it is. Okay, I'm titling this in Anchor, and then I'm setting it off. I'm just testing my stream setup to see if it actually works or not. And my video card is so bad that it only picks up like one frame every 5 seconds. So basically, my stream looks like. I think they can hear me. Yeah. I don't know. Can you guys hear me? Let's see. Light. Targeted. Toxic. Okay. All right. Oh man, they're just trolling you. They just want to know why your solo queue win rate is so low. Apparently they can't hear me. You guys triggered him. Leave him alone. Sound quality's fine. Okay, good. All right, let's go to the next question. Thoughts on the new EU LCS format and the 10 teams you expect to be franchised in NA? Yeah, I'll do a video on that. Hang on.
Hey, Weldon. I just want to ask you how you will have the players to prepare for Worlds. You know, they are going to play with the best teams right now, and the Korean players. So, how can you mentally prepare them for playing versus the best? You know, because Korea is actually awesome. You know. So I'm interested to know what are you going to do, because it's difficult not being nervous for playing versus the best.
Okay, Lucia, thanks for the question. So I think that you actually have two kind of small questions here. The first one is, how do you prepare for Worlds? Like, how do you prepare training? And that's kind of what you said, but then at the end you said, how do you prepare to not be nervous going against really good teams? So I think that that's what you actually meant to ask, even though you were talking about preparation in general. So, I mean, the players prepare by training. It's this kind of the same old, you know, you go and you do what you normally do, and you ramp up the pressure, and you focus on trying to make every single moment as quality as possible, and hopefully you're as good as you need to be at the end of the day. I mean, tournaments are awesome because the best team wins, and that's the end of it. I mean, if you didn't get to train well enough, train hard enough, or if the other team is just better, then they're just better, and you lose. But then going back to the nervousness part, that's something that each individual player kind of tackles in their career in a long arc. So one of the best ways to think about playing under pressure and playing with nervousness is to think about what it is that you give up when you allow nervous behaviors to affect your play on the rift. So you give up the opportunity to make a play, you give up the opportunity to call off a play, you pick a safer champion instead of a riskier one that you know is going to work better but that you're nervous about. You basically just live with regret if you lose after decisions like that. And so one of the best things to do throughout the year when preparing for a tournament like Worlds is to just make sure that people are willing and able and feel safe taking risks and dealing with the pain and the consequences of losing after making that risk. I think that if you look at somebody like Pobelter on CLG, if you look at the start of their play, they were a much riskier player. He was a much riskier player. And then if you look at his arc kind of through his career, he started taking less risks, and then he started taking more risks again. And you could see that at first he really wanted to prove himself. And then he started getting good, and he won a title, and he was nervous that he kind of like wanted to show up as being a good player. And so he tried to play more conservatively. But then that backfired because he couldn't take the risks he needed to play well. And he decided, okay, well, I don't want to like sit here and just live with regret of not making the play. And so he started taking a lot more risks and reaping the rewards a lot more. And throughout training, as that kind of like tolerance to risk builds up, you have the ability to do that on the grand stage as well. And the more that you do it on the grand stage and fail and realize that you're alive afterwards and you get another shot if you work hard, the more you're able to do it there as well. Thanks for the question. Predictions on Worlds. Dave, I would totally dive into that question right now, and also the EULCS format thing, except that I only have maybe 20 minutes, and I'm just doing this test stream. So I'm going to stick with the anchor questions for now, but my predictions on World, obviously G2 versus TSM final today. The only possible outcome.
Hi, Weldon, Thomas here. You mentioned recently in one of your podcasts that you shouldn't drink caffeine for 2 hours after you've woken up. Is this just for caffeine, or does it apply to food? Should you not be eating anything for 2 hours whilst your body's waking up? Or are there general optimum meal times for when you should be eating? Thank you.
Okay, Thomas, thanks for the question. So basically you're asking, are there optimal meal times for eating, and what is the deal with not drinking caffeine 2 hours after waking up? So not drinking caffeine for 2 hours after waking up is mostly because I want to optimize the effectiveness of caffeine, the drug, in my system, which means you shouldn't take a headache pill when you don't have a headache. And you shouldn't take caffeine when you're going to be alert, because you're double dosing. You're going to be alert, you don't need it, and if you take caffeine, then you're building up tolerance when it's not necessary. So 2 hours after you wake up, your body is going to make you alert whether you like it or not. You're going to be on this kind of constant uphill strive to alertness, and whether you take caffeine or not is not really going to impact your reaction speed or your alertness and your focus. And so I just ride that wave of biochemical goodness, and I worry about caffeine after that if I need to. So that's the justification for the caffeine comment. As far as meal times, it depends 100% on your goals, what your optimal meal times are. So according to your heart rate variability, there are actually optimal meal times for rest and recuperation, and that is regular ones. So the same time that you eat every day, eating the same time the next day and the next day and the next day will give you more kind of recovery during the meals. Your brain will, or at least your body, will show in heart rate variability scanning, I don't want to say scanning, monitoring, that essentially the meal is more relaxing and de-stresses you more than if you eat at irregular times or if you eat at a time that your body is not used to. And then we know that the organs in the body have kind of circadian rhythms that are independent of your overall 24-hour circadian rhythm. And so if you do weird things like eat super late at night, you're going to trigger this glucose cycle that's going to work with your liver and your kidneys to be in this wakeful state at the same time your body is going to bed and going to sleep. And so you can really misalign your, the circadian rhythm that you have in your body with those of your organs. And we don't, at least I don't know anything much about that right now. I've only read 1.5 research articles on it, and it doesn't look like there's any conclusive best practices that we can come up to. We only know that it's a thing. We know that like syncing these things up in a bad way is probably detrimental to your health in the long term. At least that's the best guess that we can come up with, or that I can come up with. And it makes a lot of sense if you think about it logically. That when you go through a digestion cycle, you're kind of like keying in your organs into being active. And when you do that kind of at night when you're supposed to be sleeping, it's probably not the best thing in the world. So I think that, yeah, optimal meal times other than that depend a lot on your dietary goals. For example, right now I'm eating only 6 or 8 hours a day, and then I'm fasting the rest of the time. So my optimal meal times are, right when I break my fast and right when I'm finishing my fast, things like that. But those are kind of like independent, and they depend completely on my goals of what I want to accomplish with my body. So yeah, just need a lot more context to decide optimal meal times other than the basic advice, which is you eat at the same time every single day. Thanks for the question. What optimal meal times? Optimal meal times. Predictions on Worlds. What is your opinion on taking away relegation from NA? I'll make a video about that, but I've talked about it before. Whatever. I don't really care about relegations. I don't really give a rat's butt one way or the other. Thoughts on natural talent. I would like to know your thoughts on group matchup for G2 Esports, Samsung Galaxy, and RNG. I'll do a video about that. What's up with HRV, heart rate variability? It's good to have a varied heart rate. It is also good to have a steady heart rate. It depends on what state your body's in. If you're running away from a tiger, you want to have a very steady heart rate. If you're sleeping, you want to have a very variable heart rate. If you're sleeping and you have a steady heart rate, you are in high stress, kind of like rested state. It's not really that restful. And if you are, running away from a tiger and you have a varied heart rate, you're probably not stressed out enough, to be honest. Let's see if there's any. How come it doesn't show Facebook comments here? Kind of annoying. Makes it really hard to interact. Oh. Where did my chat go? I lost my chat. There it is. Okay, let's jump into the next anchor question. All right, Andy Gia.
Hi, Weldon. Just a quick question. I was Diamond 5 last season, and this season I haven't even played my placements yet. Do you think it's possible for me to hit Diamond this season? Thanks.
Okay, Andy, thanks for the question. How many weeks are there left in the season? Doesn't it close about mid-December? I think. I'm not sure when they end in the previous years, but I'm pretty sure that it depends completely on your free time. Like, I can't answer this question because I don't know how many hours a day you play, but it's definitely possible if you play, you know, 8 to 10 hours a day. Is it possible if you play less than that? I don't know. It depends on how many like vacation weeks and stuff you have left. But yeah, it's possible to hit diamond yet this season. Whether it's possible to hit diamond and still have a girlfriend and do well in your classes and have another hobby, that is a different diamond this season. Yes, yes. Hit this season. Hello, Quantic Laughing Man. How do you feel about G2's bot lane compared to other regions? Obviously, they're the best in the world. How are you, broski? I'm good. Just a brief explanation would be fine. I feel confident in G2 this year to make finals. I would like to know your thoughts on groups, matchups for G2 Esports, Samsung Galaxy, and Royal Never Give Up. Do you think G2 will be ready for Worlds? I don't know. It doesn't, like, I think groups are irrelevant. I don't really care, and I have never cared about groups. Nobody who's really actually competing to win cares about groups. You just have to win, and you have to beat the best teams. It's really kind of like analysts and fans and historians who are talking about groups and what groups matter and blah, 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 and all that stuff. Players and coaches only care about like the strategies of their opponents and are focused on trying to beat them. Groups kind of context in the overall tournament is more or less irrelevant. Do I think that G2 will be ready for Worlds patch compared to Rift Rivals? Yeah, sure. My predictions on Group D. TSM, 3rd place, tied.
Hey Weldon, if I had the ability to play 1v1 lane drills against people at or above my skill level, as in play out the first, say, 8 levels of the game to practice specific matchups, first of all, do you think this is a good idea? And if so, what rules and scenarios would you implement to gain the most out of it? Also, do the pros do anything similar like this that you know of? Thanks.
Good question. All right. I think it's Alexander, yeah. Okay, Alexander, really good question. Thanks for asking. So, is it worth it to do one-on-one lane drills? For example, to practice up to level 6 or level 8? The answer is yes. Do pros do this? The answer is yes. And what are the setups that make it good practice? Okay, so first of all, mainly trying to play it out as if you know that there's a jungler there, or there's a jungler on the map, right? So that you're pushing and pulling the wave. You're not just kind of like trying to fight each other one-on-one. And then the rest of it is laning as normal. So in other words, you can't just ignore vision. You can't just push the lane and then take the opportunity to harass under turret when you should be laying a ward because you're getting in free harassment where you otherwise wouldn't in a natural game, right? So you have to behave around the river and the vision as if the jungler's on the map, but he's not ganking you. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is you need to pay a lot of attention to the mechanics that go in with the matchup and the buy timers. So if you can figure out, first of all, I would train people who are only better than you. I wouldn't train people who are your skill level. Why do that if you can train somebody who's better than you? And then secondly, try to figure out how to abuse the matchup to the point where you are denying minions or denying farm or getting a turret or getting a kill or denying experience. Those are the kind of the ways that you stretch out your advantage. And if you can't do it to the extent that you get a proper advantage in your lane that you would be able to extend into a victory, then you need to figure out other ways of kind of like winning the game through that lane. So once you determine the matchup is not abusable to the point where you can actually take a victory, then you need to be thinking about, okay, well then what are my timers that I can use to go mid? What are my timers that I can use my advantage to take jungle camps or to teleport into the other lane? Or can I use my TP timer for top lane actually and then further abuse the matchup? Or things like that. So make sure that you're not just focusing on like the raw mechanics of the kind of the level, sorry, the matchup, but try to figure out what that means for your actual play in the game. And another consideration is taking notes. If you can take notes about, oh, look, at level 3 I win, at level 1 and 2 I don't, at level 5 I win again, or like I win levels 3 through 6 and then I don't win again, then you should write those things down so that you always remember them and you can just like pull them up, because it's not like you're going to be playing the same exact matchup every single game. So if you can kind of build on the knowledge that you are accruing, then you won't step backwards over and over again. And this is also the most useful advice for somebody who doesn't play as often. For example, 4 to 6 hours a day. All right, that's my advice. Good luck. Top lane 1v1s. How to maximize top lane 1v1s. How do you cope with external disadvantages when trying to play at a top level? I have narcolepsy, and some days it makes me play worse because it's harder to focus. I try to just ignore it, but sometimes I just can't shake it. Thanks. You're doing a good job. You cope with external disadvantages by accepting the disadvantage and leaning into it and saying, like, let's see how good I can get with this disadvantage. And then looking at all the people below you who are standard and being like, ha 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 ha, suckers. And just really living it up. How do you think NA as a region has changed since last Worlds? Do you think they got better or worse? They got worse because I left, obviously. Did you learn some German while being in the EU? What? While being in the EU. I live in Finland. Did I learn some German? No. Okay. Maybe he meant EU LCS. Okay, this is probably going to be the last question. What are your thoughts on the upcoming big changes for the preseason? I haven't even looked at them yet.
Hi, Weldon. This is just another question. Yeah, my last question wasn't worded very well. This time, I was wondering on your thoughts on Ornn in the meta and how good you think he'll do in the future. Because I was just messing around with him last night, and he felt very clunky, but he definitely had some good damage in CC. Like, do you think eventually he'll be picked at Worlds, or I don't know? Just what are your thoughts on him? Thank you.
Okay, what are my thoughts on Ornn? I think that he's not enabled for Worlds, and so we don't scrim with him, and so I've never played with him or spent any time with him. When I see him in solo queue, he seems really annoying and also semi-useless. So I have zero formative thoughts on Ornn other than to say that he's really cool, and I hope that they find a way to buff him so that he works out as a common champion. But I think that champions that offer global buffs, like his item increasing, and things like Zillion's global XP buff and TF's global gold buff and those kind of things are really ridiculously hard to balance, and they're only useful at pro play when they're useless. And then they can essentially not be used for their passive in a way. So that has to be almost bad enough to be completely pointless in order to be balanced properly for pro play. And so I think that he's going to be a solo queue champ unless they find a way to, somehow give him pros and cons that make sense. Thanks for the question. How do you spell Ornn, Joey? Is it with 2 N's or 1 N or 2 N's? Okay. Oh my god. This autocorrect for Ornn with 2 N's is insane. Alright. Okay, guys. That's it. That's my test stream. That's my first anchor show in Korea. And now I got to go down to the gym and run the team through the activity for the morning. I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for coming out. How do I turn off this? Oh, check out my sponsors. Me, mindgames.gg/math program, where you can get trained by me in video form for mental resilience and performance conditioning. And check out Runtime, which is the meal replacement use to keep my nutrition high. I just bought 56 bags of Runtime, the oatmeal taste, I think, because I like them so much. And they're a really convenient way to stay healthy when I'm breaking my fast. And you get a discount when you use the code, by the way. It's like insane discount. Is it 10% or something? Yeah, it's a really good discount. You should check it out. They have a really good starter pack, I think. So if you've ever sat there at your computer and you were like, I really want some food because I'm hungry, but I don't want to get up and make food, so I'm just going to order pizza or get a burger or make a Hot Pocket, you could have eaten something that was incredibly healthy for you and tasted just as good as pizza or a Hot Pocket or a burger, and you just had to dump it into a bottle, shake it up, and drink it. Really amazing. Oh, and there, mindgames.gg/tools, my reading list. Yeah, you can go there, you can sign up, you get emails of my best ofs. So the stuff that I really like to read or watch, and better yet, I don't think that you should have to spend the time reading it, so I summarized it and gave you the key points in an email so that you can just read a short little email on the bus or on the train or wherever you are next time. You can take out your phone, passenger seat of a car, and you don't have to read an entire book to get the insight. Mindgames.gg/runtime. That's where you go for the purchase, and then I think you use MindGamesWeldon as the code. MindGamesWeldon. Could be MindGames. Try them both. I think it's MindGamesWeldon. And obviously that's not written there, so only you know it because you heard it.